Trump supporters gather in record number in D.C. American patriots storm the Capitol building in protest of the congressional election hearing. The sleeping giant has finally been awakened, and he's not happy. All of this and more. You are listening to episode 12 of the Podfather Show. The day is January 6, 2021. Today is definitely going to be a day that will go down in history forever. It'll be a day that we always remember, we'll never forget, and will likely even end up becoming the topics of college courses in history classes, political science classes, and things like that. It will be talked about, no doubt, for generations to come and for weeks to months to come in solid, nonstop conversation. Trump supporters gathered today at the nation's capital on January 6 to show both support for President Trump and their disgust with the election events leading up to today's congressional hearing over election fraud. Earlier rumors suggested that the D.C. mayor, Muriel Bowser, had ordered all of the hotels in the D.C. area to be closed. However, I did some investigation into this, and what I had found is that all of the hotels appeared to actually be open, contrary to these rumors that were going around. The only thing that I could find in relation to this was the Harrington Hotel, which was has been frequented by the Proud Boys, had decided to close to the Proud Boys staying there for this event, for the January 6th gathering in DC. The reason for that was cited for, I guess during their last stay at the hotel, there was some type of violence or a fight that had broke out, something along those lines. I did not research into that because that's not today's topic. The point here is that the rumors about Muriel Bowser shutting down all the hotels in DC so that Trump supporters wouldn't have a place to stay, to everything that I can find, those are just rumors and they're false. They're just false accusations. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not defending Muriel Bowser. I just want to state the facts in this show because that's what we do in this show. Now, this being said, from all other noticeable accounts, all other hotels were open. She didn't shut anything, or she didn't shut anything else down. However, she did apparently order all of the food cart vendors, food truck vendors in the area to vacate the area, stating that they weren't allowed to be there. Now, this could be for any number of reasons, to have, ease of access for police to be there, those types of things. But she did make the food truck vendors, the food cart vendors leave the area, and they were no longer allowed to sell food on those streets. Now, one can say that, hey, this was in an attempt for her to make room for, say, the National Guard or police to have a place to park, so these food trucks weren't parked on the side of the roads. However, I have seen video that suggests that can't be the case, because there was lines and lines of dozens in a row of white tow trucks. Now, that's what I thought was odd about it. They almost look like they're city owned because of the collar, but they were just white tow trucks that were lined up and down the sides of the streets as they were making the food cart vendors leave. So it would be difficult for police to park there if these white tow trucks were parked there. So this does look more like an obvious and childish attempt for Bowser to flail her power around, or flail her power around in an attempt to prevent the Trump supporters from having easy access to food while at this gathering. Mayor Bowser did go on to call for the National Guard to be present in the area. Additional rumors had suggested that the National Guard that was present was there. Maybe it was ordered by Trump, or the White House, in an attempt to protect Trump supporters. However, that the contrary is true. While the National Guard was called, it was approved, they were present there on standby. It was actually suggested and requested initially by Muriel Bowser herself, and her reasoning for that was not to protect Trump supporters, as you might guess, but as she had worded it, was to protect the city and other people from violence that may be caused by or from Trump supporters. Now, my question is since when have Trump supporters ever destroyed a city or have caused uncalled for or unwarranted violence on anyone? I can't think of a time I've ever seen a video where it shows Trump supporters running around, burning down a city, pulling people out of their cars and beating them senselessly. That's just not something that Trump supporters do. You don't have to like Trump, but you do have to like the truth. I mean, just earlier when I was discussing, the Muriel Bowser thing with, the shutting down the hotels and stuff. I mean, I speak the truth. So follow me on this. I mean, even if you don't like me, even if you don't like Trump, follow me on this and support the truth even when you don't like it, because that's what I do. So if you're going to listen to the Podfather Show, you should be someone who appreciates the truth for what it is, whether you like hearing it or not. But in all of my experience, it has always been the Democrats and the liberals that destroy cities, literally destroy them, burn them down, loot, riot, peaceful protest, as the media would call it. But it's not the Trump supporters that do this. So for Muriel Bowser to say that she wants the National Guard there to protect the city and the citizens from Trump supporters is just it's asinine. It's ridiculous. It shows a childish grasp at straws, and her not having even a mature ability to even have full control over her own emotions. Her emotions are just running wild. Now, this is a woman that's been elected to be the mayor of the capital city of the United States, and here she doesn't even have full control over her emotions. That's a really scary thought if you think about it. The media goes on as the rally continues and the night comes on, or the day goes on, and more Trump supporters are falling onto the scene. And of course, the media goes on a full verbal assault on everything. They start calling this gathering a mob. Later on, as you see in the video that for this podcast on our YouTube channel, the Trump supporters end up storming the Capitol building. But if you pay close attention to the videos that we've posted, they didn't push past or overcome any of the police officers. The police officers literally moved out of the way, stepped back and off to the side, and allowed the Trump supporters to come into the building. Yeah, I'm going to say it because it's exactly what happened. We have a couple of different angles in the video that show this. This is truth. This is facts. This is the way that it happened. That's kind of alarming in and of itself, to think that there's going to be police there guarding the Capitol building, and for some reason, in unison, on both sides of the main like step area there, the landing area that's up at the top of the steps. There's steps on either side of this landing area, and in complete unison on both sides of this landing area, both sets of stairs or steps leading up to the Capitol building, police move back. Same time, the police move back. Now, they can't see each other. If you look, this landing area, it's big, and these steps are kind of like are carved into the sides of this landing area, but the police move back, step out of the way, and allow the Trump supporters into the building. It definitely looks orchestrated. At the very least, that I will say, this looked like it was planned out, thought out, and maybe even, a direct order that was given over earpieces or something at that time. But something about it just seemed planned, and it was absolutely not forced by any stretch of the words. Nobody was overcome. The police just moved out of the way, and Trump supporters move in. But the media and the politicians on TV and the congressional hearing and everything after all of this, they're going on calling the Trump supporters a mob. Biden was referring to this as an insurrection. There was a couple of news reporters that even referred to this as a coup. As ridiculous as that is, they actually said that. It's almost like these news reporters either don't know what a coup is, or they're hoping that their viewers are stupid enough to not truly understand what a coup is, and that you only get the gist of it. But a coup is a forceful overthrowing of a government. That's not what happened today. That's not even what was remotely attempted today. No one attempted to take over the government. No one attempted to overthrow the government. This was not a coup. To call it a coup is just, I'm going to say it, it's ignorant. You're a complete and utter idiot if you think that was a coup. And if you're working for a media agency that allowed you to call this a coup, then your media agency is an idiot too. Because not at all, not even the textbook definition of a coup is what happened today. To call it an insurrection, you could almost call insurrection a synonym of coup. It's absurd to be using these kind of words. But groups like BLM, Antifa, the NFAC, these guys all get a pass for doing even worse things. They attack innocent people. Now these Trump supporters had finally had enough. I'll get on that a little bit more here in a minute, but they get pushed to a point to where they take their anger and they address it. They focus it and they go after the people that they're angry at, which is the politicians, which no matter what the situation may be, if it's a personal dispute, a dispute at work, or a political dispute, anyone with any level of common sense and decency would direct their anger towards the person that they're angry at. You don't just grab a person, pull them out of a car, and start beating them with a can of Twisted Tea. That's not how you do things. If they're the innocent person, you direct your anger towards the person you are angry at. And that can't be said for BLM, Antifa, the NFAC. At the very least, that's what the Trump supporters did. They directed their anger towards the people that they're angry at. But the groups like BLM and Antifa and NFAC, they get a pass by the media. They get a pass by the politicians. The media will call them mostly peaceful protesters. They're just angry, and it's justified rioting. It's justified looting. They're rioting and burning down innocent people's buildings that had nothing to do with this, attacking innocent people that had nothing to do with their anger, taking families out of cars, people out of trucks, and just beating them senselessly, who had nothing to do with the reasons that these groups are angry. And yet these groups are getting a pass by the very people that have the audacity to say that Trump supporters are a mob committing acts of insurrection and engaging in a coup. I'm just floored at the extreme ignorance of the media agencies and these reporters that are saying these things. It blows my mind. Shortly after all of this took place today, and they were able to gain control on the city, with getting all the Trump supporters, to come out of the Capitol building and to kind of evacuate the area, vacate the area. Joe Biden had later made a public announcement. I guess you could call it a public service announcement on TV. He had given his statement about it. And he made some comments with extreme audacity, saying that President Trump needs to step up and denounce the actions of Trump supporters on Capitol Hill. Well, first of all, Joe Biden, if you had half a clue, you would see on several places on social media where these Trump supporters are flat out saying that, it's not up to President Trump anymore. It's not up to the politicians anymore. These people are so mad that they're taking these matters into their own hands. I mean, Trump isn't the one doing this. These are adults doing this, making their own willful decisions to engage in these activities. Trump has nothing to do with this. And if he had anything to do with this, then that means Joe Biden, Kamala, and all of them are just as guilty for all the BLM, Antifa, and NFAC attacks and rioting and looting and everything that took place throughout the entire year of 2019. You can't say that one politician is responsible for his or her followers and then say that everyone else is excluded and immune to the actions of their followers. It's not how it works. That's how the Democrats like to do things because, of course, we all know that they don't like to accept any accountability or responsibility for their actions. They'll accuse the Republicans of doing the very things that they are doing and ignore the fact that they themselves are doing it and that they're not accountable for anything. Joe Biden stated that there were scenes of chaos that do not represent who Americans are today with the Trump supporters at Capitol Hill. Now, I will say this. I don't condone violence. I really think that it should be the last resort, but it takes a very small-minded man to condone to say that. It takes a very small-minded man, Joe Biden, to say that what those American patriots did today at the Capitol building don't represent what America is. Because Joe Biden has obviously forgotten. That's what started America. That in some sense, in some ideologies, that is what America is. Now, but you gotta step back from that because, as I said, I don't condone violence. I really think that they overreacted and acted prematurely. But he goes on, he makes a couple of his solemn old lady like fashion type sighs that he does. And it's just that, my God, is such a politician move that when he does that. I absolutely hate his ridiculous, oh, no, that's not America. Yeah, when he does that, I don't even want to listen to it. I just want to put it on mute. And he can't give a speech without making these solemn, old lady-like, ridiculous sighs when he's talking. Like, side with me, I'm filled with love. Bullshit, Joe. We know you're not. You're not. If you were, you would have stepped up and asked, you would have stepped up like you wanted Trump to step up, and you would have asked the BLM, Antifa, and the NFAC to stop burning innocent people's buildings, pulling innocent people out of vehicles, and beating them senseless. Where were you, Joe? Where were you? You didn't step up. He said that, in Biden's words, he said that the words of a president matter. But again, Biden didn't have those words throughout the entire year of 2019 when we needed them. They're not going to listen to the words, the BLM, Antifa, NFC. They're not going to listen to the words of Trump. But they may have listened to Biden. Biden wasn't president then, but he's an ex-vice president. They may have listened to him. He didn't even try. He didn't even try to get them to back down, but he has the audacity to throw all this blame on Trump. Kamala Harris even went as far in 2019 as to say that the BLM and Antifa riots will not and should not stop. Yeah, she actually said that. Most of you listening to this are going to be aware of that. Some of you aren't. We actually have those video clips in other podcast shows that we've done. I'd be more than happy to do it again. But yeah, Kamala Harris in an interview towards the third quarter, I think it was, end of third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter of 2019, when things were getting really out of control, when cities were burning and people's buildings and businesses were being looted, Kamala Harris actually said in a TV interview, well, in a recorded interview, that the riots will not and should not stop, fully condoning them, giving full excuse and pardon to them. She's fully supported the riots and the burning and the looting and the violence and the chaos. She was in full support of it, even going as far as to mention that celebrities and people with money, but celebrities, should bond them out of jail when they get arrested. I kid you not, she said it. You can't prove me wrong on it because it happened. But yet, this presidential pair has the audacity and the nerve to throw this kind of blame on Trump, saying that the actions that happened on January 6th at Capitol Hill were his fault. The Democrat and media hypocrisy is out of control. I think we all know that. I think we all know that their hypocrisy is so out of control that it can't even be hidden anymore, which is kind of an irrelevant point because it's obvious that they no longer try to hide it anymore. They, in some situations, flat out condone violence, support the people committing violence, and then blame the other party, the Republicans, when violence happens, and even when it doesn't. Today was tragic in many ways. A young lady had lost her life. Many of us know that. The only other time that a shooting had ever happened in Capitol Hill was in 1954, I believe. But it was tragic. I think that the Trump supporters today should have given the opportunity for the congressional hearing to play out. I do think that they acted prematurely. Now, I understand the ideology that sometimes a good man has to do bad things. I get it. I do. Believe me. If pushed into a corner, I, as a good man myself, would do bad things. I think we all would. We all have that within us. But I really want to believe that today could have been avoided and averted. I mean, we don't know how that was going to play out. And it's possible that their actions could have made some people that were still sitting on the fence want to vote the other way. You know, I mean, that's just a reality of the matter. And while I don't condone the actions that took place today, and I do think that there's a time and place for those type of actions. There is a time and place. But today was the wrong time. At the very least, I think they overreacted and they acted prematurely. But I do understand. I do understand where they're coming from. I'm not speaking down upon them. Understand that I myself consider myself an American patriot. I do. I love this country. I love our Constitution. I'm fed up with our government. I see the corruption. Don't think that for a minute that I'm not woke. There's corruption on both sides. I get it. I really do. So I understand where they were coming from. A lot of that was built up emotion. Like a kid bullied in school. We've all heard these stories. Kid gets bullied in school throughout his entire 4-year school period, or four-year span in high school. He gets bullied. Day after day, he gets bullied. He gets bullied. He gets bullied. And then the last day of his senior year, what's he do? I think we all know the answer to that. That's kind of where these American patriots were at today. They'd had enough. They felt bullied. They felt pushed into a corner, and they just couldn't take it anymore. For the last 4 years, the Democrats, libs, liberals, and the media have all poked and prodded the American patriots and Trump supporters to no end. They've insulted them, literally attacked them, made fun of them. They've doxed them. They've ridiculed them. They've canceled them. They've cost them their jobs, their families. And the entire time, Trump supporters and the American patriots were sitting there saying, don't keep prodding the sleeping giant. You're not going to like us when it awakens. They kept saying that, but it didn't matter. It was inevitable that the sleeping giant would eventually be awakened. They were poked and prodded. The media poked and prodded the sleeping giant for so long that either they didn't think there would ever be consequences for bullying the quiet kid, or they knew there would be consequences for bullying the quiet kid, and that's what they wanted. I don't know which is true. I'm kind of leaning towards the second one, though. The quiet kid is tired of being bullied, and he's not quiet anymore. The sleeping giant is now awake. The quiet kids aren't quiet anymore. They've come out to play. And the American patriots are now awake. They're active. You've gotten them out of bed. They've put on their boots. And they're saying, hey, we're answering your call, is what they're saying. We're here. Time is now. They're tired of it. They were pushed into this. They've been bullied for the last 4 years. If you didn't see this coming, you're an absolute idiot. If you're in the media, if you're a politician, and you didn't see this coming, you are an absolute idiot. You have no right to be in, you're not qualified to be in the position you're in. And if you did see it coming, then that makes you guilty of it. And anything that happens beyond this point is on your hands. Believe that. The politicians and media need to fear consequences and repercussions for their wrong and illegal actions. The media will not stop bullying the quiet kids. The politicians will not stop being corrupt until they fear punishment again. That's just a cold, hard fact. I'm not condoning violence, but punishment doesn't have to be violence. They just need to be held accountable for their actions. The media needs to be held accountable for their words, and someone, some type of agency or something needs to be developed that can make the politicians accountable for their actions. Because as of right now, nobody seems to be wanting to do it. And the Trump supporters and American patriots are tired of it. I'm Kevin McIntyre, and you have just listened to episode 12 of The Podfather Show. In a final message here at the end of episode 12 of the Podfather Show, I wanted to discuss something that had happened to a fellow Trump supporter and his family-owned business. A fellow Trump supporter who owns a patriotic shop with his family and just trying to make an honest living. was a victim of these goons in a year at the end of 2020, in a year-end attack where apparent Democrats and or liberals had broken into his family-owned store and vandalized all of their merchandise so that it can't be sold, pouring bleach on their hoodies, their shirts, Trump flags, leaving the family completely devastated. They were planning on putting a lot of their equipment and their merchandise into a trailer and taking it to the Trump rally at January 6th in D.C. in hopes what would have been the family's biggest week yet, and as far as like record sales go. Well, I had a chance to speak with the owner of the shop this evening. His name, I'll just say his name is Seth. I won't give you his last name to protect his identity for obvious reasons. I'll leave that up to him, and discuss his experience and what had happened to his store. And as you're seeing from the images here, Seth was telling me that, his store was literally vandalized. They left almost nothing unscathed. It's just despicable that liberals and Democrats would do these things. Like I've said in this podcast and many other podcasts, you don't see Trump supporters doing this. You can say what you want about Trump supporters, but at the end of the day, they do just mind their own business until they're pushed into a corner. And then anybody would come out swinging. Who wouldn't? Well, I felt really, really bad for Seth and his family, and after learning about their story. And so I visited their website and thought, as a having been a business owner myself, I felt for them. I know what it's like to have your business broken into and your livelihood destroyed. It's happened to me. And it's a gut-wrenching feeling. So I reached out to Seth and I told him, look, I want to specifically purchase your vandalized merchandise. There's something retro and vintage about the look of bleach spilled on clothing anyway, and as long as the material's still wearable, I got your six, bud. I've got your six. So even got one of their mystery boxes. He's got some mystery boxes on here where you can order, small, medium, large mystery boxes. And, then he promises that the stuff that you receive in the mystery box will be valued more than what the mystery box itself cost. So that's a plus. So I'm really excited about the mystery box, more so than the hoodies, I had purchased, or the wintertime socks for the misses that I had purchased. I mean, yeah, those things are great. And I'm looking forward to getting a hoodie. Don't get me wrong. I'm looking forward to getting a hoodie with some really cool splash effect of some bleach on it. Man, I mean, what better way to support a fellow Trump supporter? Well, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'd felt bad for Seth. And I thought, I'm going to see if I can help Seth out. I'm going to give Seth a plug here on the show and post his website link down below in the video description, and even a link to the news article which discusses what had happened to him and his business. But you know what? If you wouldn't mind, and even if you can't afford, a $20 or $30 hoodie, they even have a donation thing where you can donate just $10 to the family to help them get their business back up and going again. But they do have some really cool looking bleach splashed hoodies and t-shirts and socks and all kinds of other stuff, so you guys could give back too, and help out a fellow Trump supporter, because if we don't have each other, we don't have anyone. No one's in our corner. Everyone's against us. That's all we have is each other. So why don't you guys, reach out, contact Seth. You can even tell him that I sent you, the Podfather Show. I talked to him, a few times today. He's fully aware that, that we're doing this. He's very thankful for it. So if you wouldn't mind, jump on over to TrumpStoreGreenBay.com, check out their merchandise, and, let's show the Seth family some love. I mean, let's give back to them and show him what American patriots do, and that we are truly there for each other. So again, that's greenbay.com. Over there and show some Patriot love. There'll be a link in the description down below. Thank you. Again, this is the Podfather Show.